Disappearing Stacks in the Library by U/Mentos and Coke 286. My college's library has a very unique layout where there are floors between floors in the section of the library considered to be the stacks by the students. I've spent a lot of time in the library and I know the stacks very well as a result. A couple days ago, I was wandering through the stacks and into the between floors looking for something new to read or distract myself with, and I stumbled across a section that I have never found before. It had every single book that I had ever wanted to read, but couldn't find previously, as well as seemingly hundreds of other texts that were just so relevant to my interest. I love to learn about huge variety of things, and this little corner had it all. Everything about it was so tempting, like I could have stayed there forever. It felt fully unreal. Everything looked like the rest of the library, but the contents of the shelves were tailored only to my interest, when there should have been something entirely different on the shelves, according to the system that my library uses to categorize their books. I left quickly after that and realized a little more time had passed than I had planned to spend in the stacks. I was in there for hours and almost was late to one of my classes as a result of my exploration. The next day, I decided to go back and to try to find that part of the stacks again. I went through every section twice and I still couldn't find it. It fully disappeared. A friend of mine who works at the library told me that he's had some things like that happen to him too. So at least I know it's not just me being crazy, and I have no idea what I stumbled upon. Disappearing Woman by U/Beaumont_Livingston. This happened back in 2015. I used to work at a Pizza Hut. It was takeout or delivery only type of Pizza Hut, and I used to work the late night shift around 9 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. From midnight to 2 a.m. on weekdays, there's very little to do and not many customers. Usually, I'm in the back on the computer just watching YouTube videos or whatever. But then I hear the entrance door chime, notifying me that someone had just walked in. It was about 1:30 a.m. It was a woman. She was dressed pretty nice, had on some really nice red bottom heels, and had on a very stylish navy blazer. She orders some chicken wings, garlic bread, some dip, and a 2-liter Coke. Nothing out of the ordinary. I got everything together and placed it on the counter for her, and then told her, "Enjoy, have a good night." She picked up the plastic bag with the wings and garlic bread and makes her way out. I was looking down on my cashier screen to print out a receipt for our records, and then look back up and notice that the 2-liter Coke is still on the counter. The door entrance chime just rang as she turns right, and I could see her feet just make it out of the frame of the window. So naturally, I grabbed the 2-liter Coke and made my way outside to give it to her. I opened the door and turned right. I was about to say something, but no one was there. There were no cars, no people, nothing. Mind you, this whole thing from seeing her leave the Coke on the counter and grabbing the Coke to give it to her probably happened in a span of 2 to 4 seconds. The Pizza Hut that I worked at was located in a plaza building with other businesses attached to it. Most of these businesses close anywhere from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. So I walked down the sidewalk of the plaza, adjacent to the Pizza Hut with the Coke in my hand, looking into the other stores that she might have walked into, though every store was closed and it was dark inside with only the store signs illuminating the front of them. The doors were also locked. I knew there were some places still open this late at the plaza, so I walked down to the far end of the plaza where I knew there was a shawarma place open until 3 a.m., and I asked if they had seen a woman or if anyone had come in recently, and they said no. It was so strange because there were no cars in the plaza except for mine, and the only explanation would be that she walked into one of the stores next to me, though they were all locked. As well, I know the owners next door, and she didn't seem like the type to have access like that. I thought maybe she got into a car right away and left, but that would be impossible, as the plaza is large, and for me not to see a car driving away would be damn near impossible. Theoretically, as she was leaving, I was almost immediately behind her. I should still see her, though it's as if she vanished into thin air. And to this day, I still can't seem to figure out what happened.
Night Drive by user KwestProd. I'd like to start by saying I was never one to believe in the Matrix or anything of the sort until this experience. I am trying to come to some sort of explanation aside from a glitch, but I have not been able to find any resolution to this. It's not scary, spooky, or some time traveler thrown through space-time to our dimension or timeline. Just odd. I was driving through the streets near my house at around 9:30 p.m., so it was dark and oddly quiet for a weekend night. I live in a college town in Southern California with a vibrant nightlife, so not seeing a single car or pedestrian for the first 3 miles on major roads was extremely unusual. I didn't think much of it until I came down a large hill and around a bend at the bottom. It was a sweeping left bend with a speed limit of 45 miles per hour. I saw tail lights ahead right at the end of the bend. I noticed I was getting closer fast and checked my speed, 45 miles per hour. I slowed down quick and approached the cars ahead of me. I slowed down from 45 miles per hour to 10. The cars were stopped. No stoplight, stop sign, accident hazard, animal, nothing. I realized they were all stopped in perfectly spaced out intervals, alternating between the left and right lane. I felt an odd sensation through my body, like a static vibration, what I would compare to TV static emanating from my bones the closer I crept up to the cars. All the cars were vehicles that did not come with a manual option, so they were all automatic transmission vehicles. None of the cars had brake lights on, stopped without engaging brakes. The sounds of the cars were non-existent. As I pulled up next to the car in the left lane, I crept up to look at the person in the car, and as soon as I broke that perfectly spaced out interval, all the cars began moving at once. No engine starting, no gears being changed, no handbrakes being disengaged. Just a sudden movement by all 7 cars. There was no slinky effect like traffic always has. All 7 cars from front to rear began moving at the same exact time. That static feeling I had wore off the further I got from where the cars had stopped. I passed the cars once I had a chance, and all the drivers were expressionless, did not want to look at me, did not show any signs of acknowledgement of me or what just happened. Is this anything any of you could give insight to or know of happening? Thanks.
Downward Road by u/bonusminutes. Back when I was in college, probably 2012 to 2013, I experienced something weird with my friend. I went to a community college in New Jersey and I had met a lot of friends. One night, two guys that I didn't know super well but seemed cool wanted to chill. I'll call them Rourke and Eric. I drove the three of us to Eric's house for video games, movies, and for Rourke and I to spend the night. We were having fun, but around 2 a.m., Eric's dad inexplicably just said that Rourke and I couldn't spend the night. This was annoying because my place was at least 45 minutes drive away and I would need to drive Rourke home first, wherever that was. This part of the state is very rural with a bunch of thick forest roads and farmland, so everything is far apart there. So, begrudgingly, Rourke and I got into my car, and since Eric guided us to his place and neither Rourke and I knew where we were, I would need to GPS to his house. At that time, I still had a slider phone, not a smartphone, so I used one of those old TomTom GPS units. We started on our way following the GPS instructions through the wooded roads, making small talk and whatnot. Before long, we ended up on a wooded road that the GPS didn't have a name for. The space for the road name was just blank, which I had never seen before. Less than a minute after we got on the road, the GPS lost signal. I didn't think much of it and just continued, figuring that it would just come back. The road started off normal and unremarkable, but it gradually got steeper and steeper downhill. Rourke and I commented on it, but just brushed it off. However, as the minutes passed, the road got more and more simple. Eventually, there were no guardrails. Then it stopped having streetlights. Then it became a dirt road with no markings. Then it narrowed for just enough space for a car one way. The forest on either side was hugging us, and aside from the dirt road, there were no signs of human influence. It's also worth noting that there was never an intersecting road to turn onto. It was a lone road, and we also never saw another car. Rourke and I were kind of nervously laughing about it, trying not to freak out. The decline had become very steep, and it was almost a perfectly straight road. I had considered trying to turn around, but at that point, the road was too narrow to turn around, and it would have been awful for my car to drive back up something so steep for so long. So, we just descended into the darkness, only able to see what my headlights showed. All in all, we probably went down for 15 to 20 minutes, and we were going decently fast. I doubt we went below 20 meters per hour, much faster a lot of the time, so that I wasn't killing my brake pads. I feel as though we should have easily passed sea level. Eventually, the road evened out, guardrails and streetlights came back, and the GPS signal returned. And we just ended up on some side road like 2 minutes from Rourke's place. He insists that the road had never been there, and there was no mountain near his place for us to have descended. I ended up just crashing at Rourke's place. The next day, I drove back the way I came, and I could not find the strange road, nor could I find any road that was remarkably elevated. Fell asleep at the same time with the lights on, and woke up at the same time. By u/Linuxy. I'm not sure if it exactly belongs here, but this happened when my partner was visiting me, and he was staying over at my place for a couple of weeks in 2019. We had the lights on, just casually talking, and all of a sudden, we forget. about what happened in that time frame, and we just both woke up and we were shocked about how we even both fell asleep at the same time because the lights were on and we were both just facing the lights too. It was so bright when we both woke up. We were in a really uncomfortable position. He's a taller guy and he had his legs half off the bed and half on the bed. And I was in the same position. It was really strange. Also, since we are both used to staying up since we play games all the time. But we woke up at around 9 p.m. At this time, I was in college and I didn't have a lot of money. So we didn't really do anything crazy that would have just knocked us out of exhaustion. We're also both introverts, so a party is definitely out of the question, and both the type of people who need to have the lights off to even feel sleepy. We often joke around that the world ended and we just got teleported to a different one, just trying to talk about what actually happened to both of us. It was really strange, and we often talk about it still even to this day. What do you guys think? Have any of you gotten something similar?
My first and last name was written on a box. I have no explanation why it was there. By user Goof Off Corpse. I will try to be as brief as possible. My whole life I have suffered glitches, most of which revolve around a feeling that I am being watched. The best description is like a real-life Truman Show. I know I'm not being watched, but sometimes things happen that are difficult to ignore. A few weeks ago, my girlfriend accidentally washed my vape pen. The pen was a Yokon Evolve Plus. I got it at a smoke shop near me about 3 years ago. It is used to vaporize marijuana concentrates. I use it when I am traveling. It is self-contained and very portable. I made plans to visit my daughter and grandchildren a few hours away from me, so I decided to stop by the same store and see if I could get a new one. On our way to my daughter's, my girlfriend and I stopped at the smoke shop. I walked in and asked the lady if they had the pen. She said they did not, and don't carry that type of device anymore, and really acted like she didn't know what I was talking about. I asked if they had anything that would be comparable, and she took me to a glass case in the corner of the shop. Things were kind of piled on top of each other in there. As the lady was moving stuff around, I noticed 2 boxes that said Yokon on the side. I asked to see them, and she said, "Oh, I didn't know we had those." There was a kind of pinkish one and a black one. I said I wanted the black one, and she tried to talk me out of buying it. She said the other one was more silver than pink, and she thought it looked nicer. I reiterated that I wanted the black one. She rung it up, and I left. We started heading toward my daughter's. My girlfriend was driving and I got the device out to charge it. That was when the sun hit the top of the box and I saw that my name was pressed into the top. Someone had signed my name on a piece of paper on top of the box and the indentation was still there. I'm looking at it now and it is clearly my first and last name. I have absolutely no explanation for how my name happened to be on the box. There's no reason for it to be there and it's very concerning. So that's it. I don't want to post a pic because it's my full name, but I would be happy to send a pic to Mod as proof. Edit. I got a pic. It's just the first letter. I covered the rest for my privacy.
Flash of Light by u/Iris Went. This was about 3 to 4 years ago when I was in my second year of high school. I've left school now, but forgot about this incident until now. We were in a religious studies classroom, just learning about stuff while the teacher is talking. I'm paying attention to what the teacher is saying until a huge flash of white light happened outside. I looked outside and then looked back around the classroom, and nobody else seemed to have noticed it. My childhood best friend was a table over, and she was looking at me confused. I asked her if she has seen it. She said yes. we were the only people that witnessed it. It didn't even feel like a flash of light. It felt like everything outside of the classroom itself just disappeared into a white void for about 1.5 seconds. It didn't corrupt my vision at all, so this is where I find it hard to believe that it was a flash of light, because I genuinely looked out of the window and it was just like a white void. I brought this up to her a couple of months back, and she still remembers it and thinks the same thing as me. She also doubts it was a flash of random light, as it looked like a void. I know, it's so difficult to try and explain to anyone because you wouldn't understand until you actually saw what we saw. And I still think it was some kind of glitch, like the world just didn't load in for a second. Ghost Car by u/beep boop beep 411. My husband and I were driving home after a wedding 2 weeks ago. It was about a 3-hour drive home, and it was close to 11 p.m. by the time that we left the wedding. So, we were prepping for a long night drive. The road from the venue before we hit a major highway is about a 27-mile country road that is less traveled, especially during the night. Husband and I were both very aware of our surroundings, since lots of deers were coming out, and we wanted to keep an eye out in case one decided to jump into the road. The road is pitch black, and there are no other cars around us for a while. Then, we see headlights coming from the other direction, still pretty far away but making its way towards us. All of a sudden, the headlights disappear, and it's completely pitch black ahead of us again. My husband and I look at each other and both immediately think, "Oh hell, we're about to get jumped." My brain immediately went to those stories about bad people pretending to be stuck on the side of the road and ask for help, only to hurt and steal the cars from their victims, or whatever. I start to panic and tell my husband to drive fast and don't stop, and husband starts talking more logically, saying things like, "Maybe they turned into a street, or maybe there's a hill and they went down, which is why we can't see them anymore." And I'm here saying, "Nah, we would have seen the lights turn if they went into a street or driveway." But the hill explanation seemed possible. We keep driving and driving, looking out for any side streets or hill. But none. No streets or driveway to turn into, and absolutely no hill. This road was as flat as my chest back in 6th grade. Literally, it was flat, and we kept looking for a car that may have been parked on the side of the road. But nothing. This road is small, only 2 lanes, and surrounded by fenced farmlands and trees. There's no way that we would have missed a car parked on the side of the road. And I'm not sure what happened to that car, but I get chills just thinking about it.
Vehicles glitching, or am I losing it? By user Bonafide Bunny-Eyed. I am aware of the "you don't see the red car till you have one" phenomenon, but that seems to occur when you're thinking about it. I don't actively think about cars disappearing and reappearing, but it has happened to me 3 times, so I wonder what gives. And no doubt y'all have no idea where these places are, so I'm not being intentionally vague, just trying to give a good idea of circumstance. The first time has been at least 6 months ago. I was traveling up the highway to a client's house. A very bright orange SUV was behind me, not close or tailgating, just in the rear. We approached the stop sign, dead end, to go left or right on the next highway, and we both headed left up an inclined, curvy, forested road to the next town. I saw a larger truck coming that I didn't want to lag behind, My car is old, I need a running start, so I got on out and out of the way. I kept an eye on my rearview mirror to make sure I hadn't cut him off and zipped on. As the road planed back out, I can see at least half a mile behind me now. No vehicle of any type. About a half mile further is my right turn onto the next highway. I just happened to look up in my rearview mirror when I made my turn, and that bright-ass orange SUV is right behind me, as if it had dropped out of the sky. And I had been glancing back because I wondered why no cars had come around the big truck. There was no one back there. The second instance was last week. I was behind a porta-potty truck and went around it. Of course, I was faster. My car is small and I'm not hauling anything. Several miles and 4 turns later to a 4-way stop, there it is again, coming from the right at the stop sign, and it gets in front of me again, like it dropped from the sky. And I know it was the same one because there was a name sticker on the window and I felt the crapper wasn't properly secured, which was why I hauled ass around as quickly as possible the first and second time. Anyway, I passed around it again, and when I looked in the rearview mirror a few seconds later, the truck was gone. Nowhere to hang a quick turn or driveway to be in, just gone. Last experience was yesterday. We were coming up the highway and a small gray crossover was coming into the median to turn into traffic in our direction. They came up a big truck on the wrong side, so I had a small concern they didn't see us and were poised to pull on out. I was watching intently at that spot to see the car stopped. I could see under the truck body, and not even the tires were visible, like it was never there. I kept looking back and nothing. Are cars glitching on the regular and I'm just noticing, or am I losing it?
Has anyone else lost time while exercising? It happened to me near the beach in San Francisco, California. By u/Moscow Ramada. I have been running for over 2 decades now, and because I've run so much, it may be the thing that I know best in life right now. I know how long my runs usually are, how fast I run, and all the other details. Normally, I run for 1 hour on the beach, on the Ocean Beach in San Francisco. That means a 30-minute run out and a 30-minute run back. Let's call those 2 legs. And normally, the difference between the legs is on the order of 1 to 2 minutes. Yesterday, I experienced something abnormally greater than that, which I still can't puzzle out. My run started very normally. I remember, on my way out of the door, I was looking at the stove clock and thinking that it's a little past 10, like 10 or 4 or something. I crossed the street and there's kind of a big group of ravens on the ground. I plow through the middle of them. I wasn't trying to be rude or to antagonize them. The path to the beach went through their group. Maybe one of them moved away from me, hopped a few feet away, and was a little disruptive, but not excessively so. And it felt like one of them glared at me, but I didn't make much of it. So I get to the beach, very close to where I live. It was windy and cold, and this will be relevant later. I decided to go right this time instead of my usual left, and I checked my watch and it says something 21. To explain the vagueness, I used to run with my phone, but it's damn heavy, and of course, a phone is precious and I don't want it getting water or sand in it. So, I got this cheap wristwatch on the internet, the cheapest possible wristwatch, which isn't even set to the accurate time. I just know that if I start at 6:21 on the watch, and I want to run for an hour as I did this time, I need to turn around at 6:51 to be back home at 7:21. Most days when I run, I finish within 2 to 3 minutes of that, and it varies a little. So, I do my usual run. Nothing too noteworthy happens. At one point, I see a guy running his ATV on the sand, and I think he's not supposed to do that. That's the first time I'd seen him out, and I saw him in a construction vest and a helmet. and I thought that he worked for the city. But this time, I think he's doing that on purpose, and he wants people to think that he's on official city business, when really, he just doesn't want to be identified, because he's not supposed to use his ATV here on the sand. Then, shortly after seeing him, I see a kid standing on a small sand cliff yelling. He's just yelling at nothing, towards a spot that I passed through. At first I wondered if that was a mentally disturbed person that I've seen in the area, who I've also seen yelling around there, but seemed younger, like 10, and wearing a nice puffy jacket. I get close to the turnaround point and thought about checking my watch earlier, but I decided, no, I don't want to tease myself with being able to run around when it's not time. I'll check when it's closer to the time. So I check at what seems like the earliest possible turnaround point, and it's something 8. Huh? It should be somewhere around 51. I do the math, around 17 minutes off. Did the watch malfunction? I'm not sure. How did this run take so long? I run back, and the kid is still yelling. He was yelling 15 minutes ago and now still yelling. ATV guy is still there and a little past him, and on my way back we seem to stay in each other's sight as he is headed in my direction, goes past it, and then comes back. This time I am much more focused at the end of my run on my watch, and it reads perfectly, exactly as expected when I finished, something around 38. It took 30 minutes, and we're back in the normal time now. My watch isn't malfunctioning anymore, if it ever was. And just to let you know, it wasn't. So I remember now, I have a second source of truth. I looked at the stove when I left, and I checked it when I get back to my room. It says 11:23 or so. Weird. That matches up with what I would expect if the wristwatch time is accurate. So the run took 1 hour and 17 minutes. But how? I decided to check Google Maps for the first leg of the run and how long that would take at that speed. And according to Google Maps, it's 47 minutes is how long it would take to walk to the turnaround point. Which seems about right, if I'd actually walked, but first of all, I was running. I know it. And secondly, even if I had been walking, I would have been frigid from the sea wind and getting continuous feedback from my body to run and warm the hell up because I was dressed in shorts and a t-shirt. I'm not so physically tough that I can walk in 60-degree weather into a stiff ocean breeze and not even notice. I'd notice every second and be uncomfortable with it. In fact, I went out today and tried walking in that outfit, and I was like, yeah, confirmed, this is very cold and very unpleasant, and I only walked for 1 to 2 minutes and noticed that I was cold and disliking it the whole time before turning back to my return place. One more thing as a runner. When you run in one direction, then come back the way you came and are faster on the way back, they call that negative splits. Normally it's like finishing 2 minutes faster. It's not easy. This time, in my negative splits, I finished almost 50% faster. Like 2 decades ago, I could occasionally pull off negative splits, but never anything on this order. Even a measly 10% improvement would have been impressive. So this blows that away. And I'm decades older now too. So, I don't get it. It's like from 1 second to the next, I was catapulted 17 minutes into the future. There was no perceptible tell from me. It was a totally normal run, a totally normal experience. Except I lost 17 minutes on it. I don't have any good explanation for all of this, but I'm sure my run was 17 minutes longer than usual, all on that one leg too. My take is I have no idea what happened, but I'm going to be more respectful around the ravens next time that I run across them. Next time, I'll take the long way around. Still, that's not an answer, and while I don't think I'll get one, I'd like to know if anyone else has experienced something similar. I think I skipped in time today. By u/Vesdas90. So this happened earlier today, and I'm still trying to process it as it makes zero sense. A friend of mine and I traveled together between two towns earlier today. We agreed that he would pick me up at 8 p.m. We were both on time, and he made a joke on how we were both very punctual because that's not usually the case when we're meeting. We got in the car and he showed that his car had gas for exactly 681 kilometers more. A joke about our country being formed in year 681, which will be important later on. So we drove off pretty much immediately on what usually is a 1 hour and 45 minutes to a 2-hour drive journey. We were expecting to arrive at roughly 10 p.m. The journey itself was on a road that we've both traveled hundreds of times, so we know it very well. It's only 95 kilometers, but the road is through the mountain, so you can't really drive fast, and that's why it usually takes at least 1 hour and 30 minutes at a very minimum. There wasn't a lot of traffic in our direction, so we had a relaxed time chatting and driving. Also, my friend is usually a pretty slow driver, and his car isn't all that powerful. He was pretty much driving how he always does, and there wasn't a single time that I thought he was speeding or anything, and his driving was never brought into the conversation because of how routinely everything felt. Nothing really special happened during the drive, up until we arrived at the destination town, and my friend said that it felt like that was the quickest journey that he's had on that road ever in his life. I felt the same way, and so we checked the clock and it was showing 20:45. Only 45 minutes had passed somehow. We were both really baffled because that's just not possible. I've been in cars speeding like hell on that road, and they never even come close to a time like that, let alone with my friend's slow driving. What also adds to the mystery is now his car is showing that it has enough gas to go for another 652 kilometers, like we've only traveled for 30 kilometers. I know, it's a moving metric based on how you drive, but this isn't making any sense considering how consistent he is in his driving style. He also called his grandmother to tell her that we have arrived, who he'd just seen before we left, and she thought that he was lying to her because only 45 minutes had passed and we couldn't have possibly arrived yet. And I'm still not sure what to do after these bizarre events. It's Gone by u/Fond of Pink. I have a flight next morning, so I wanted to sleep early, but I'm so upset, so I started to read the experiences here and share my own. Right after I was done with packing, I remember that I did not put my face cleanser in, So I went to my room to get it, which was new and never been used because I was still using the little tester bottle which I got before buying the product itself. So the tester bottle was in the bathroom and the big bottle was in my room. But now it wasn't. It should have been on my makeup desk, but it wasn't there, so I searched my whole room. Then I thought perhaps I actually packed it. I removed every item in my bag, but nothing. Then I searched the whole house. I searched the whole house for an item that was literally on my makeup desk. Cleanser might sound like something that can go missing easy, but the thing is, this one was special because I finally found one that my skin likes. No irritation, no allergic reaction. It cleared my face so well after a couple of usage of the tester bottle. So when I bought the product itself, expensive, but I was so happy with it. So I put it on my desk to make sure that I'm packing it with me. And it was a huge bottle. Nothing makes sense right now. I know it was there. And then it wasn't? But I guess sometimes that's what happens, huh? Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.